I still can't believe what I found, even now, months later. The sheer audacity of it all keeps me up at night. Was I wrong for digging, for prying into a past that wasn't mine to uncover? Or was I just a daughter seeking the truth about a man she thought she knew? Tell me, honestly, if you would have done the same thing, if you would have ripped open your family's history for the sake of a buried secret. My father, Colonel Robert Sterling, was a man of unwavering discipline, stern principles, and an almost mythical aura of patriotism. Growing up, our home was less a house, and more a small, meticulously organized barracks. Every item had its place, every schedule was adhered to with military precision, and every family dinner felt like a briefing. He was a career military man, serving over 30 years in various capacities, though he rarely spoke of the specifics of his work. Classified, he'd always say, a glint in his eye that suggested he held the weight of national security on his shoulders. My mother, bless her gentle soul, was the perfect military wife, stoic, supportive, and seemingly content with the limited information he offered about his daily life. She passed away 5 years ago, leaving a void that even my father's rigid routine couldn't fill. It was after her death that I first noticed the cracks in his impenetrable facade, the subtle shifts in his demeanor that hinted at something deeper, something unspoken. He retired a few years later, a celebrated figure in his regiment, but retirement didn't suit him. He became more withdrawn, spending countless hours in his study, a room he'd always kept locked, even from me. He would emerge looking haunted, his eyes distant, as if reliving battles I couldn't comprehend. I always attributed it to the post, military blues, the difficulty of adjusting to civilian life after decades of service. I was an only child, and while our relationship was always respectful, it lacked warmth. He was a provider, a protector, but never truly an emotional presence. I loved him, of course, but there was always a chasm between us, filled with unspoken words and untold stories. I lived a relatively normal life, working as a librarian, a stark contrast to his world of covert operations and strategic maneuvers. My life was quiet, predictable, and devoid of the kind of drama that seemed to cling to my father like a second skin. The turning point came with his illness, a sudden, aggressive form of cancer that ravaged him quickly. In his final weeks, he was a shadow of his former self, the strong, imposing colonel reduced to a frail, vulnerable man. It was during one of his rare moments of lucidity that he looked at me, his eyes clouded with a mixture of fear and regret, and whispered, "There's something in the study, a box, lost and found. Don't let it be lost forever." He never said another word, slipping into a coma shortly after and passing away a few days later. His words, cryptic and urgent, burned in my mind. What could be so important that he would mention it on his deathbed? What was lost and found? After the funeral, a somber affair attended by a handful of stern-faced military colleagues and a few distant relatives, I finally entered his study. It was exactly as I remembered it, a shrine to his military career, filled with medals, commendations, and framed photographs of him shaking hands with various dignitaries. The room smelled of old paper and leather, a scent that now felt heavy with secrets. I searched everywhere, meticulously going through every drawer, every shelf, every dusty corner. It took me days, but I finally found it. Tucked away in a hidden compartment behind a false panel in his desk was a small, unassuming wooden box. It was old, weathered, and etched on the lid, in a faded, looping script, were the words, "Lost and Found." My heart pounded. This was it. Inside, nestled amongst yellowed letters and a tarnished silver locket, was a stack of photographs. They weren't of my mother or me, or any of our relatives. They were of a woman, a beautiful woman with long, dark hair and piercing green eyes, smiling brightly at the camera. And in many of the photos, standing beside her, was my father. Not the stern, unsmiling man I knew, but a younger, happier version of him, his arm around her, a genuine smile gracing his lips. My breath hitched. Who was she, and why had I never seen these pictures before? As I sifted through them, a chilling realization began to dawn on me. These weren't just casual acquaintances. These were intimate, loving poses. In one photo, they were holding hands, gazing into each other's eyes. In another, they were sharing a kiss, the kind of kiss that spoke of deep affection and shared history. I felt a cold dread creep into my stomach. Then I found the letters, a thick stack, tied with a faded ribbon. They were addressed to my dearest Robert, and signed your loving Isabella. Each letter was a passionate declaration of love, filled with details of their life together, their dreams, their hopes. They spoke of a life he had lived, a life I knew nothing about. Dates mentioned in the letters clearly indicated that these events occurred before he married my mother. But as I continued to read, a different, more unsettling timeline began to emerge. Some of the letters were dated after his marriage to my mother. My hands trembled as I read a passage where Isabella spoke of their beautiful secret, and how she missed him when he was away on assignments. Assignments that coincided perfectly with my father's military deployments. The locket held another picture, a tiny, faded image of a baby swaddled in a blanket. On the back, etched in minuscule handwriting, were two words, our daughter. My world tilted on its axis. My father had another daughter, my half-sister. The truth hit me like a physical blow, stripping away every preconceived notion I had about my father, about my family, about my entire life. He hadn't just had an affair. He had built a second life, a parallel family, all while maintaining his rigid, disciplined existence with my mother and me. The Lost and Found wasn't just a box of memories. It was a revelation, a shattering truth that had been hidden for decades. I felt a kaleidoscope of emotions, betrayal, anger, confusion, and a strange, aching sadness for the woman in the photographs, Isabella, and for the child whose existence had been so meticulously erased from our lives. So that's the situation I was in, a secret spanning decades, a hidden family, and a father I no longer recognized. And I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have kept the secret buried? Would you have sought out Isabella and your half-sister? Or would you have simply walked away from it all? My first instinct was to burn it all, to erase the evidence as meticulously as my father had hidden it. The pain, the sense of betrayal, was overwhelming. But then, a different thought began to form. My father, in his dying breath, had told me not to let it be lost forever. Was this his final act of atonement, a desperate plea for the truth to finally come to light? I knew I couldn't just ignore it. I had to find Isabella. I had to find my half-sister. The letters provided enough clues. A specific town mentioned repeatedly, a university where Isabella taught, even a nickname for their daughter Lily. It wasn't much, but it was a starting point. I started with the university. A quick online search confirmed that an Isabella Rossi had taught art history there for many years, retiring only recently. It was a long shot, but I decided to visit the town, a quaint coastal community a few hours away. I felt like a detective, piecing together fragments of a life I never knew existed. I found her house, a charming cottage by the sea, and my heart pounded as I approached the front door. This was it, the moment of truth. I rang the doorbell, my hand trembling. The door opened, and there she was. Older, of course, but still undeniably the woman from the photographs, her green eyes still piercing, though now softened with age. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice gentle. I took a deep breath. "My name is your name. I'm Robert Sterling's daughter." Her eyes widened, a flicker of something recognition, shock, perhaps even fear passing through them. She invited me in, and we sat in her living room, a room filled with art and warmth, a stark contrast to my father's sterile study. I pulled out the box, placing it on the coffee table between us. Her gaze immediately fell on the lost and found, etching, and a single tear traced a path down her cheek. "He kept it," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. I explained everything, my father's dying words, my discovery of the box, the letters, the photographs. As I spoke, she listened intently, her eyes never leaving the box. When I finished, a long silence hung between us, heavy with unspoken history. Finally, she spoke, her voice thick with memories. "Robert was the love of my life." She began, "We met when he was stationed nearby. It was intense, passionate. We planned a future, a life together. Then, he was deployed. He came back different, distant. He told me he was getting married to another woman. I was heartbroken, but he said it was his duty, that he had made a commitment. I didn't understand then." She paused, taking a shaky breath. "But he kept coming back. Every time he was deployed to the region, he would find me. We couldn't stay away from each other. It was wrong, I know, but we were in love. We had Lily, our beautiful Lily. He loved her truly. He visited whenever he could, always pretending to be an old family friend. He helped support us financially, secretly, of course. He always said he would come back to us someday, that he would leave his other life behind. I waited. I always waited. My heart ached for her, for the life she had lived in the shadows, waiting for a man who never fully committed. Then she told me about Lily, my half-sister. Lily was now a successful artist, living in another city. Isabella showed me pictures, and I saw the resemblance immediately. My father's stern jawline, but Isabella's captivating eyes. We spent hours talking, sharing stories about my father, each of us seeing a different side of him, yet both parts making up the complex man he was. Isabella spoke of his kindness, his passion, his artistic sensibilities, traits I had never seen in him. I, in turn, described his discipline, his unwavering commitment to duty, his quiet strength. Leaving Isabella's house, I felt a strange sense of peace mixed with an even stranger sense of sorrow. I had found answers, but those answers had opened up a whole new realm of questions. I knew I had to meet Lily. I contacted her, explaining who I was, carefully omitting the more painful details of our father's deception. She was shocked, understandably, but also curious. We met a few weeks later, a cautious, tentative meeting that slowly, beautifully, blossomed into something more. We discovered shared interests, similar quirks, and an undeniable bond that transcended our unusual introduction. We were sisters, after all, bound by blood and by a complicated, secretive father. The aftermath has been a journey of healing and rediscovery. I've forged a relationship with Isabella, a woman who, despite the pain my father caused, holds no bitterness, only a profound love for the man she knew. And with Lily, I've found a connection I never knew I was missing. We talk often, sharing stories, piecing together the puzzle of our shared heritage. My father's military base secret didn't just reveal his truth. It revealed a new truth for me, a broader understanding of family, love, and the complex tapestry of human relationships. He was not just the stern colonel. He was also a man capable of immense love, immense passion, and immense secrecy. So, that's my story, a lost and found, that revealed a hidden truth and brought me two incredible people I never knew I had. It wasn't an easy journey, and the revelations were painful, but I wouldn't trade the truth for the comforting lie I lived before. Like this video, if you were on my side, if you believe the truth, no matter how complicated, is always worth uncovering. Subscribe for more stories like this, where secrets unravel and lives are forever changed. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. What would you have done? Was my father a hero, a villain, or just a flawed human being caught between two worlds? I'll see you all in the next story.